What is up, everyone, and welcome to another issue of Sibling Rival-Read, the comic book show hosted by none other than myself. It's Ben Pye, alongside my wonderful sister, Anna Kin.
So nice. That was
Um,
such a nice intro.
right? I'm getting good. I'm trying a different camera setup since we're doing recording ahead of time instead. So hopefully this looks all right and okay, and everything goes just perfectly. Um, So welcome to another issue of Sibling Rival-Read, our comic book club show where we choose a comic book every week. And in the case of once a month, we choose a manga, um, which is the week that we're on this week.
And
Um,
who picked it?
I picked it. I picked the manga this week, and we are reading. We have already
Yeah.
read A Silent Voice by Yoshitoki Oima. I'm not going to pretend like I am good at pronouncing these names and things like that. So I apologize for anyone who is offended by my terrible pronunciation.
Slaughtering of the
Yeah.
name.
Yep. So in my theme of this month, I've essentially picked another very seriously dramatic toned uh, book. I was not aware ahead of time that this was the same um, A Silent Voice that you and Sarah watched for her
ASL class, yeah.
ASL class because
Uh,
ASL and JSL are exactly the same, right?
Oh, she was real salty about that worksheet.
Of course.
Yeah.
Um,
But so it is an anime movie and you can find it on Netflix. So
yeah.
just as a heads up.
I've only really had a chance to watch the beginning portion of it, with a newborn in the house sitting and watching like a movie, that really I want to watch. A little more difficult than you know, trying to
Sydney?
watch a movie that other people would like to watch.
Hmm.
Um, but I did get a chance to essentially watch through what volume 1 covers in the manga itself. And God, this was
Which the tone, it like how you feel about the main character in the movie setting for just this length, and how you feel about the main character in the manga setting in just this one volume was interestingly different, in my opinion.
yeah. Um, they definitely did. So the movie, one of the big glaring differences that I would say the movie had versus the manga itself is that the teachers, or the one teacher, like the main teacher, the guy teacher that was in the
Hmm.
manga, wasn't nearly as much of a jerk
Yeah,
um, in the
in the
in the
movie.
movie. Um, like the tone of this book is very serious, and I feel like right off the bat, being in any way, shape, or form disabled or not, that people are going to find a way to relate to this book,
Hmm.
as like a huge focus is bullying. And I think the in the book, bullying was very, very prominent across the board, not just from the main character, show show Shoyo
I
show
mean, you both the main characters are show,
right. Um,
so
the guy main character show. Um, let me see.
I can't pronounce any of the names because I'm a terrible, terrible person, and I don't want to butcher them and offend anyone.
Oh gosh, this is
But I'm obscenely, like, incredibly bad at pronunciations. So
ah, crap. I forgot that mangas are. We're just going to be on the cover page because this is.
I can't see the pages currently, by the way.
Oh right, I can change that.
Okay. But
Well, I'm not going to be flipping through pages because I keep forgetting that manga is dumb, and I haven't made a new
set up yet.
layout to. Yeah, I'll try to do that this week so that we have a 2-page spread so that
Yeah, it
math
was
is
it,
easier.
and this one was again fixed to where you couldn't zoom in panel by panel.
Right.
Not all of them are that way, but this one was.
Yeah. Which was fine. Like I read on the tablet, so I don't do the whole guided view anyways.
I read this
It's
one
just
on my phone, so
oh
would have liked.
yeah. Yep. I can see that. Um but yeah, so little boy show, complete and total jerk to deaf girl show. Um and man, it's I don't know about you, but as a kid in middle school, I was bullied a lot and picked on a lot. So it's like not to the extent as she was, but
Or
I
him later.
what's that?
Or him later.
Or him later. But it was a story that really kind of hit close to home. I never in any way, shape, or form felt like the need to hurt myself because of it or anything like that. Like show ends up, wanting to do towards the end of this book, um, which or towards the end of this volume,
Hmm.
um, which again just like really it was heavy. It was a heavy book.
It
Um,
is a very heavy book, and knowing how the movie goes, I know how the broad scope of the manga is gonna go, and it just continues to add on in such a way that I was not expecting. And I was
gotcha.
like, "Dear God."
Um, and it's interesting because it tackles a lot of things that like the world is kind of dealing with right now in the sense of like how much hate there is out there right now and things like that. It's like I feel like everyone could read this story and take a good lesson from it about how actions have their effects on everyone, not just yourself and the immediate person in front of you, but it's not great to be an ass.
Yeah, it did a really good job. The
Hmm.
book did a really good job. The manga did a really good job of tackling real world problems and making them accessible. In comparing the viewpoints for the manga and the anime, when I felt like the anime focusing on male show, like baby little boy show, um, on being a bully and being an instigator was much shorter lived in such a way that you were quickly sympathizing with him, whereas in the manga you struggled with wanting to sympathize with him but also being like, but you're being an asshole.
Yeah. And
So, which is also like, I think really speaks volumes for the storytelling to be able to sympathize with somebody or the main character who is part of the problem
mhm,
throughout the entire thing. So I thought that was a really well written character in just one volume.
yeah. um and the progression that you see, it's like, and it really becomes a like you see him as like the main antagonist, and then as time, like as you read through it, it's like, yeah, you see that he's a jerk, but at the same time it's like you see how that teacher treats him. You
Mhm.
see how his other friends, quote unquote friends,
Read
um
him.
treat him. And it's almost and again, this is going off of what little information I have from volume one. It's almost like he doesn't really know a lot different
No, and I
because
mean, that was also something interesting about the manga opposed to the animated movie was because you got so much more internal dialogue that to him justified his actions.
right,
You were able to sympathize with him as a bully where you were like, but you shouldn't be doing this.
yeah,
But how he interpreted like the lectures that his teacher gave him, like this is wrong,
hmm
and how he interpreted people laughing at what he was doing, all of those internal monologuing moments really showcased
just
the
his
extent of his character building and
yeah,
like
well, and
foundational character his character foundation.
flawed his thinking was, and like
Mhm.
it not that there's ever a reason to be mean to people, but this is just you could see why he thinks it's okay
Yeah, in some moments.
in some
In other
moments. Yeah,
moments
yeah.
where he's like, "Oh yeah, I like, causing things to suffer. So let's see how long I can do this." That one you were like, "Wow, you're like a little baby
Mhm.
sociopath."
Yep,
Um,
absolutely.
and then you see later where like after the teacher lecture and he was like, "Oh, okay, so you just have to deal with it." And he goes through the school life and he's like gauging what he has to deal with. He goes, "But should we be the ones really?" And it was just extremely interesting.
Yeah.
And like the other characters, the other children, once they shift their bullying from being alongside male show
Mhm.
to being against male show, and the manga was also it was extremely strong and like well done. I do think that you got a little bit clearer of an image on the group bullying in the anime when it was group bullying alongside show, where when he got called out for being the only one, you
Uh-huh.
were like, what the heck? Whereas in the manga, you were kind of like,
Y
okay.
yeah. In the manga, you definitely saw a lot more of the others bullying her too, but it not being
So
as
aggressive.
right, like
They were being like,
they were being
I,
catty and like
yeah, it's like, I was gonna say, like women, how they stereotypical, like, as little girls, and they're like, oh my god, little girls are so, like, low key catty and like bullying
mhm.
as opposed to physical bullying, which I was like, that's not proper description because everyone's catty, not just obviously, but catty was the good word. So, yay you!
Um
Sorry.
and it's like there were there were parts of it, it's like that I go through and I'm reading and it's like, "Oh my god, that just makes me uncomfortable." Like constantly ripping out the hearing aids and like
Mhm.
and all of that, and then
And the earring ripping out. That
yeah,
hurts. That hurts. I mean,
um,
all of those things just like, how could you do that and it hurt?
it was just not
Yeah.
cool. And then, the other thing in the comic is, Girl shows, mother. Like, holy crap, if this girl doesn't get enough of it at school, she's then got overbearing mom at home.
Overbearing mom from like a different degree. Instead of like
Right.
picking on her for her disability, she's trying to make her stronger to go along with her disability. And it just does not. Give
Well,
me
as
1 second.
as a professional parent now, having been a parent for now 4 weeks today, I have to say that can't be the way to go about it.
Yeah, with her like male haircut, and
Yeah,
that
it's
was
like
that was also cringy to me.
we're right. It's like that whole scene. It's like you're sitting there, and it's like I felt as uncomfortable as
The
Um,
mother would have?
the
Yeah,
yeah, I'm
the
like,
hairdresser.
"Oh my god." Like, this girl just wants like, let her be strong in her own way,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, and then you get, like, this little bean little girl show who's deaf and always bullied, and she seems so pure and, like, sweet and an angel.
And then, like, on top of that, like,
Oh my god,
when she knows that boy show is being picked on, she tries to like, shelter him from it.
yeah,
Like, oh my god, it's like well, once you, like, really sit there and you realize what she was doing the entire time she was at the school, it's like, "Oh my god. Well, you are a good person that a lot of bad things have been happening to, and it is not
yeah, and I
fair."
mean and you can reflect then on being like, "Well, she is already an extremely strong character. Screw
And
the boy haircut!"
yeah,
It was just a pixie cut, it's not like boy versus girl, but whatever.
right.
Whatever.
And it's just it was it was really sad.
Mhm.
And then, it's it definitely
Just come here.
it definitely then goes into, like, just how awful it is to try to be to try to help and befriend people who have it more difficult with the the girl who wanted to help learn sign language.
And then she
Um
ended up leaving the school.
yeah, because
That
also
was
being
also one
picked
of
on.
those moments that I think I didn't fully grasp in the animated movie or the
No.
anime
Uh-huh.
movie, was that she actually left the school.
Yep. Yep. Um
So
it's just it's awful. It's horrifying. And it's I mean, I haven't been in middle school in a long time, but I can't imagine that it's changed that much to where it's like, "Oh,
middle
this
school
is."
kids are the worst.
Yeah. No offense if you're in middle school.
No, 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 but, like, that's, like, the worst. Whenever I think about, like, people telling me their worst times, I feel like they always happen
So
in middle school.
yeah. Middle school and then um
It's like dog poop.
sophomore second half of sophomore year in high school.
I never got bullied, or at least I don't recall ever being bullied, so I feel like I can't truly reflect on my time in school being like that.
I think part of the issue for my being bullied was how much we moved around and how many different schools I ended up going to in a very short amount of time.
Mhm.
Um, and like
Mm,
going to my first middle school, which was a private school. It was a bunch of kids that had all been going to school together for at that point like 6 years, so everyone
it was a
knew
joint elementary and middle.
yeah, so everyone knew each other, and then new kid comes in and small classes on top of that because it's a private school. So it's like I was definitely the outlier. And then we moved to New Jersey and I
Which
went
was
to public school, but the school was even smaller than the private school
yeah,
that we went to. And
in
same
a town
thing,
where everyone not only went to school together, but grew up together.
yeah, because the longest road in that town was 2 miles long. Like everyone knew each other and all of that. So once we went to high school there, it was better because um, the high school pulled from three middle schools in the area. So the high school was massive in comparison to the middle school. So that kind of gave a little bit of buffer for me, and then changed high schools in the middle of sophomore year to like this shithole. Oh, sorry, pardon my language. This crap hole in North Florida.
It
Um,
was terrible. The school system there was really bad.
yep, absolutely awful, and the people there were awful too. So yeah, didn't do great there. Um, But then moving back to Central Florida kind of evened out again. I think at that point I was just like, whatever. I'm sticking with my people. They're the theater people and the photography people. Those are my people, and I'll just do that. But yeah, so like middle school, I think is still like probably the hardest. I'm sure
Yeah.
high school is difficult too, but I feel like at least high school it was a little easier to kind of find your niche.
And middle school also is when like everyone's going through puberty, everyone's finding themselves, everyone's super angsty.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But,
So I'm excited for you to continue with the anime,
mhm.
and if you choose to continue with the manga, I'm excited to see you do that and like hear your thoughts and opinions on it. Because
I do want to read. I think I do. This one's only I think like 5 volumes. So I think
I can understand that.
I think I might read through the rest of it. If I find time to finish watching the movie, I will. Right now, I'm trying to kind of catch up on anime that I've been behind on. Watching My Hero Academia right now, and I want to watch. I want to try watching Attack on Titan again,
Well, and you promised me that you would give Fruits Basket a shot.
and I will still give Fruits Basket
So,
a shot. Um,
and if
I
you choose not to continue watching it, then I'm just gonna make you watch like one single clip to see your reaction about it because it's
this
funny.
that sounds about right. Um, but yeah, story wise, like I said, I felt like it hit home pretty well for me, you know.
Hmm.
Um, so like I had some moments where I was close to tears.
All the feels.
A lot of feels in this one, um, but not necessarily like in a bad way. Um, just
No, but I'm like, I know waterworks are to come. I'm, and same with you because we're very emotional readers, watchers, whatever.
right.
But yeah.
Let's talk about the art a little bit though. Um, one of my big things when I'm reading anything art wise, is how well they do facial expressions, and I have really yet to run across a manga where I felt like they did not do faces and emotions really well, and that is incredibly true here too. Like you definitely get a lot of the innocence of show in some of these and a lot of the art, and just the overall, like everything to me art wise, I felt looked great.
Like it
um
was kind of just manga art. I mean, it did it well. It told the story well, but you're reading it more for the story again than for the art because I mean the art is pretty like average, I would say.
okay, I liked this
Um,
art more than I liked Pokemon.
okay.
And just in my opinion, again, like just from the facial expression standpoint, so many of the faces looked so incredibly real and genuine, and
Yeah. I think that I'm also at a slight disadvantage from me having read it on my phone because in a lot of moments with I felt like it was almost so detailed that it felt cluttered
okay,
in
I could
some
see that.
panels,
I could see
but
that
that could have been
on the phone for sure.
right. So I'm like, I feel like that's more on the phone being a disadvantage than the actual art itself. I can't imagine that that would be how I would feel on the computer or even on the actual like hard copy
Right.
copy
Um,
manga.
Absolutely. And I mean, just it's a weird thing, but like even how they show like tension, like gripping hands, like on
Mhm.
paper, and like when they're dry. I don't know how to explain.
I'm
Like
really excited to
they
see how they do further with the sign language aspects in later volumes, I think.
I would definitely recommend also looking at it on your computer, Anna, just to kind of get again that just the feel of tension across faces, across like
Oh, yeah,
hands,
yeah.
like body
And
language, and all of that. Because again, I feel like that's where this book shone
it
the most.
it won you over.
Yeah.
And I don't at all think that I didn't dislike the art in any way and or anything like that. And I think that I was so ready to see how well they showcased the sign language aspects of it. And then you don't really get much of that in this first volume because it's just when they were little.
Mhm.
It ends with them meeting up again. Sort of. Like, sort of meeting up again. Uh, so I think I'd have stronger feelings towards it, towards the art in later volumes. It's also one of those things where I was anticipating certain moments to be showcased that just didn't happen in this particular volume. So I think that also kind of set me back as at a disadvantage reading it with wanting to find certain artistic moments and then just that's not where the manga in this particular volume takes you.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
And then I think another thing that I really liked with the art was towards the end, when
With the
uh
X's,
yeah, he stops like really caring.
seeing people's faces, that's
Exactly.
probably my favorite artistic moment in the anime. In this, I think it's a
It's
beautiful showcase of an internal struggle and
yeah,
separation. Um,
absolutely. And it's
so
definitely like I think books and comics and manga, these are things that need to be addressed more often because it needs to become okay to talk about like this kind of stuff.
mhm,
Like essentially through the second like the last quarter of this first volume, Cho is going through all of this alone. And you know, you you never have to go through stuff like that alone.
mhm.
Um by blocking out and doing all of the stuff that Show's doing here, like it's showing kind of how a lot of people just internalize it all and it just eats them up inside. Um when at the end of the day it's like if you can find that one person that you can like talk to, makes a huge difference.
And I will say also, just branching off of that take and this particular art moment that we're talking about, which I think is page 178 and 179. It's a two-page spread where you see
Yes, the
all of the
best.
students, um, and Sho is the only one who doesn't have the X. If you were to just print out that entire page and put it in a school as a talking about depression or feelings of isolation, I think is extremely strong and well done. And I always look at the art for like those poster moments.
Yeah.
And I think that one has a lot of impact with it, which
Yeah.
is also why I think that I'm going to like the art or feel so much more connected to the art in later volumes.
Mhm.
But this one was one for creating the character foundations. So I mean, you had to build up to those moments. So I felt like it ended artistically stronger than it started out, just in terms of the message and how they delivered that message. Um, of the breaking down of this character. Also, you got to see a really interesting way of showcasing his plan like with his ripped calendar
Yeah, this I don't plan on living past this day.
past this date, which was a extremely powerful and interesting artistic capture of
Yeah. It was
of what he is going through in terms of tying up all his loose ends and figuring out when he's going to do it and all of these things, which, yeah.
again very, very heavy.
Yes. And it gets heavier.
Yeah, I mean that's the first volume.
Yeah.
Um, and I thought I was. I mean, I knew it was uh, going to be. I knew going into it some of the stuff that it was going to be dealing with,
Hmm.
in the sense of bullying. Um, I didn't quite know where it was going to go from there. So a little heavier than I anticipated from a book that I already knew was going to be heavy.
Told you it was heavy.
No,
I
I
know, but I mean, that doesn't, I didn't want to give away anything either. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
literally was just like, wow, okay. Yeah, no. I mean, I didn't, when I watched the anime, I only knew about the sign language aspect. I knew
Mhm.
nothing about the bullying. I knew
Oh,
nothing about the tones of suicide. I knew nothing of that. And I was just like, oh my God.
yeah. So let's just use this as a moment to remind everyone you are loved, you are cared for by at least someone. So
You matter.
yeah, you do. Happy Pride Month, also.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I don't know what else to really say about this.
No, because it's
Um,
also one of those ones in particular where I'm like, I really want people to read it.
I do
Like, and
too.
not just listen to us critiquing it.
Because
So,
it is strong. It is a strong book. It is worth spending some time to read. Um, I haven't watched the whole movie yet, but if you don't feel like reading 5 or 7 volumes, I can't remember how many volumes it is.
it's a much shorter manga series than any of the others that we have read thus far.
Yeah,
Because I think the Pokemon one, if it's not still ongoing, it was forever long.
yeah.
Same with Fairy Tail
It is
is, I
seven
think it's
volumes.
still ongoing. Okay, so I mean,
Yeah, 7 volumes. But if you don't read all 7 volumes, probably watch the anime movie. Um, I imagine that'll at least touch some of it. And again, it's what I saw of the movie. It was really well done too.
yeah.
Um, and yeah. So I guess I'll rate the story. Right. That's what I do.
Yeah, that's
So this is a silent voice. Um, and Anna story art overall. Okay. So story wise, I mean, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10 on story. I think the story that it's telling is important. I think obviously being a volume one, it's a perfect jump on point. There's nothing about the story that was confusing to me or I didn't feel was accessible. Um, I think overall it was a masterfully written story and a really good peek into like this as an issue, bullying and hate as an issue. Um, so for me, 10 out of 10 on story.
so for me, I'm also giving it a 10 out of 10, which probably has a lot to do with also
What
I know how the
happens?
story I know how the story continues, and I know that it continues strong. I know that the message continues strong. I know that it's continuously an important and yet painful story to follow that is beautifully done. So, and it's one that I think that if you enjoy manga and if you enjoy anime, if you enjoy comics, if you enjoy animated movies of any kind, like it's definitely something that I would recommend to anybody
Hmm.
with, the little asterisk for, you know, might be a little intense.
Yeah. Like, hey, trigger warning for.
Yeah. This piece
Um,
is asterisk for
yeah,
everything.
yeah. Um, no, I think I've been trying very hard not to get like teary eyed, just kind of like thinking about the story itself. But like the author, the artist, the storyteller here, perfect job at kind of addressing this and showing it for what it is. Um, Not just from the standpoint of if someone has a disability, but just from standpoint of existing in middle school,
Well, it starts out in elementary
elementary
school
school,
and now
whatever.
they're in
Yeah,
high school.
yeah,
You get like really only snippets of middle school, but
sure,
it does a really good job in being accessible to everyone from being bullied, for being a bully, nobody knowing people who are bullied, not saying anything,
yeah.
and like what that means as a bystander.
Mm-hmm.
It tackles everything that goes along with growing up that makes it really accessible, makes it extremely well written, and makes it something that should be read
Yeah,
or watched.
agreed. Well said, Anna. Very
So
well
it's
spoken.
it's definitely one of those stories where you're like, it's an amazing story. It's just one that's really hard.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
It's a tough pill to swallow, but sometimes swallow the tough pill.
hmm.
Um,
Art, my turn.
Art, guess you.
So I'm like struggling for grading the art because for me, it got better as you go,
Mm-hmm.
and I know it'll stay in that better tone
Mm-hmm.
for
And
the
you read it on
remainder
your
of them.
phone?
Yeah, and I read it on my phone, so I mean that's kind of mean of me. But I always had my phone on me. I did not always have my computer on me. Um, so I'm leaning towards a 7 because I didn't feel super drawn to it until the ending, but I'll give it an 8.
Okay,
I'll give it an 8 because I read it on my cell phone and I still felt that way.
that's fair.
So
For me, I'm going to just address the things that I mentioned before. Like whenever I think about like really great photography that I love when it comes to like portraiture, um, it all shows like tension and facial expressions and body language and all of that. And I think that this artist had a really thorough understanding of how body language and tension works when people are doing or feeling certain emotions. And I think that it was incredibly well done, like I said, in how people gripped paper or how like people were pushed around or just some of the stances of like the teachers, um, the kids, all in how they react to what's being said. Um, to where I felt like even without internal monologue like being written out for me, I was able to look at a character and still understand like what they were feeling. And I think that is something that is not shown a lot in comics. Like in Western comics, I don't think it's shown a lot. Because in Western comics, it's like let's just show all the muscle all the time. For the most part.
mm,
Um, Whereas and same with some of the manga that we've read to date so far. It's been, a little more like showy. The focus hasn't really been on body language. Like even Witch Hat, which had amazing art, didn't
The
really
focuses were
do.
different.
Yeah, it didn't do a lot with body language in it, and I felt because this was more slice of life, they focused on it, and it paid off
Really well.
really, really well.
Yeah.
And because of that, I'm also giving art a 10. And I really do highly recommend, like, even if you don't just go read it again, Anna, just like pull it up and as big screen
I
on your
did for
computer.
before we got on here to pick out my favorite panel, which was
Uh-huh.
the 2-page spread,
Okay.
178 to 179. So I did go through it just to look at it from that standpoint, and it
Uh-huh.
does look better on here. It's one of those things though that you were looking at it from your actor perspective on emotion, and I was still looking at it through the.
No, I get it. Yep.
So it's just one of those things that now that we've talked about it, just like how you sometimes like going back after you and I talk about art,
Hmm.
it's one of those things that I think I want to now go back. This was definitely one of those really weird moments where you talked a lot more insightful on the art than I did, and I feel like a poser, but that's fine.
Well, but you
I
bring
will
up
also
like the things
say,
that you focus on in art are different than what I focus on in art. Just like,
mhm. I will say another one of my favorite panels. I don't remember what page it's on. Um, was when Sho goes home and his mom thinks he brought all of his friends, and you see him upstairs trying to
oh,
make
trying
all
to.
of that noise.
Hmm.
That was
Painful.
so painful. I don't want to say like traumatizingly painful, but it's one of those moments that will definitely stick with me as being
Uh-huh.
like, oh my god. And that was definitely illustrated to the extent of the storytelling where it was your heart shattered.
Yeah.
And you were like, you're a bully and my heart is shattered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I hear you.
So, overall score then for you.
Overall score for me is 10 out of 10. I mean,
Yeah.
this again to me is a masterpiece. And I'll reiterate it again. It's a story that needs to be told. It needs to people need to
Hank cried for it.
yeah, I know. Um, people need to know like life can suck, and maybe there are not great ways of dealing with how life sucks, but if you just take a second to again think about it, oh god, um, you know, you're cared for. There is always someone that is going to care for you, and just don't know what else to really say. Um,
I'll score it.
yeah.
um, so I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10. Regardless of how I felt necessarily about the art at an 8, because it ended so strong, because I only read it on my cell phone, and because I know how the story goes, I know that the art is gonna be consistent with how this volume ended, and because I think that the art helps the story. It doesn't set it back, and it's a story that needs to be out there.
Yeah.
So 10 out of 10. Does this mean I lose?
No,
If I
actually,
lost, it's
no,
like
no, no, no,
2 points.
no, no, no. We are tied because I gave Thor. We both gave Thor 10 out of 10. We both gave Teen Titans 9. We both gave Rat Queens 9, and now we've both given A Silent Voice 10. So this month
It's a really good month,
we did really well this month. Um, we chose some good books.
right?
I'm proud of us.
So now I feel like it should be a poll where people vote on what their favorite comic that they read this month was.
Yeah, I dig that. So, if you are watching on YouTube, um, leave a comment down below. Um, of the books that we read this month, and this month was spread out a little bit because we had a
Anyone?
2-week break in between episodes. So as a reminder, we started with Thor, the God Butcher, went to Teen Titans Judas Contract, and then did Rat Queens, and now A Silent Voice. So, of those books, leave a comment down below. Let us know which book was your favorite this month.
Mhm.
If you are listening on iTunes, I'll add a poll to. We'll say you can find the poll. It's benpie.com/poll. POLL. Um,
Hank.
it's benpie.com/poll. That way I hopefully remember to make a poll.
And I can try to post a thing on Instagram.
Yeah. And we'll
So that it'll be like accessible to absolutely everybody,
yep.
and we'll just have to compile it all on our own.
Speaking of Instagram, Anna. Oh, actually, I am gonna mention the book that we're reading next week, just because we know the book that we're reading next week, and it is a long book. It's 400 pages long.
Of
So I
course
want
it
to
is, because guess who picked it?
me. Um, and I want to give people as much time to read it as humanly possible. Whereas I will be posting a video after, so Thursday, announcing the books for
This
the
new month.
next round of books. So next week we are going to be reading Planet Hulk for our Marvel pick, which is my pick. Took me a while to choose it, but I'm excited to.
I've never read a Hulk comic.
I've read one set of Hulk comics. I enjoyed it, but this one this one's good. Supposedly
Nope.
it's really good. So yeah, that's what we'll be reading next comic book day. Anna, where can people find you on the internet?
I'm on the Instagram. I have 2 accounts. I have a personal account, which is mostly my dog Hank and, podcast information, which is Anna_Riddick. And then I have an art account, which is A_Riddick_designs. And then on the Twitter, which I'm never on, but I got guilt tripped into getting one, I am A_Riddick Designs, no underscore.
Good.
Ain't that confusing? Go ahead, Ben. Where can they find you?
You guys can find me pretty much everywhere on the internet as It's Ben Pie. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I haven't ever posted anything on TikTok, but YouTube, all of that.
And our beautiful website. We
Yep,
should totally do stuff on TikTok for like promoting the comics.
we should. Like little, like even if it's like every other day or so, we post like we read this comic and give it like quick review, like quick 30-second comic reviews. What do you guys think of that? Leave a comment down below, or tweet at us. Let us know what you think about if we should do TikTok content. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Our website, riddickdesigns.com. Also, everywhere that you can find me, you can go itsbenpie.com/links. And that'll bring you to the latest episode of Sibling Rival-Read, the latest episode of the D&D campaign that I host, my Instagram, my Twitter, all that. So yeah. Thank you guys so much for stopping by and watching. And until next week,
So
Shalom-Aste.